It is Tuesday, July the 8th.
This is The Warning.
Yesterday in Los Angeles, this was the scene in MacArthur Park. Operation Excalibur, detailed on Substack by the independent journalist Ken Klippenstein. Here are the leaked plans. Note how the civilian population of American citizens is described in the adjacent area. And note the detail that if a firefight was to commence around MacArthur Park in Los Angeles, that indeed there would be very heavy civilian casualties. Now, the stated purpose of this was to crush the fake ID market in MacArthur Park. It was said in the operational briefings that MacArthur Park is the place, the genesis of MS-13, and that the military force there should expect a fierce fight and be ready for MS-13 to engage in the middle of the morning against the military, against ICE in Los Angeles, near the elementary schools. Right before this insanity began, there were children playing in MacArthur Park. They were taken away, huddled inside, so none of them would be seized, though a couple of them were quoted in media reports talking about how terrifying it is that their parents might be kidnapped on the street. These are the scenes. This is the chaos. This is Trump's America. No sensible person would look at this and say the country where this is taking place is a free country, is a functional democracy. And there's a couple of things we should be clear and honest about. The checks and balances in Washington, D.C. have completely collapsed. The 119th Congress is no such thing. It's a Politburo. It's filled with rubber stamp yes men. Look at this imbecile congressman, Troy Nails, a man who illegitimately wears the combat infantryman's badge, a person who brazenly has committed federal crimes with stolen valor, an imposter like George Santos. Take in his arrogance in front of the Capitol. Ponder the arrogance of a Ted Cruz, once again, in the middle of crisis, far from home, vacationing.
I don't know the source for what you're saying. All of the public reporting I've seen is that there were two alerts that went out, one just after 1 a.m., one after 4 a.m. I can tell you, I talked about the partisan finger pointing. I think there have been some eager to point at the National Weather Service and say cuts there led to a lack of warning. I think that's contradicted by the facts.
Does Ted Cruz rush back to Texas? No, he does not. Ted Cruz goes to the Parthenon and then lies about it while being responsible for doing everything he could, for some reason, to cut the budget of NOAA, to destroy the weather services. But back to Los Angeles. The one thing that was least discussed by the feckless Democratic leadership of Chuck Schumer is this. ICE is now the largest law enforcement entity in U.S. history. It is a force of masked, unknown men. They are funded to the tune of $125 billion, which puts it in the rank of some of the biggest, best funded, most lethal militaries in the world. And it's coming to Chicago, it's coming to Houston, to Philadelphia, to New York, to Cleveland, to Cincinnati, to Charleston, South Carolina. It's coming everywhere. Tanks on the streets, masked, armored men. Let's listen to this woman, an American citizen, describe her experience.
They were just telling me that I was getting arrested for interfering and for resisting arrest.
Do you think you were interfering?
I don't think I was, and I was just resisting because I wasn't sure where I was going to end up or who was taking me.
A terrifying and violent encounter for an American citizen swept up in an ICE raid while on her way to work.
I'm like Latina, so I'm pretty sure I was probably racially profiled.
You should be outraged by this, and this is unacceptable. Donald Trump won an election with 49.5% of the vote. No majority in America has ever supported Donald Trump. And even if a majority did support this, it doesn't make it constitutional, it doesn't make it lawful, it doesn't make it right, because in a free society, there is such a thing as minority rights. And they don't exist at the whim of a 49.5% plurality that believes it has a pretend mandate to do this, which they don't. Here was a man who voted for Trump, who talked about when it came to the attempt to sell off 132 million acres of public lands that, well, as he said, I didn't vote for that. And there are millions of Americans who didn't vote for this. There is a question that has haunted history. Why is it that the United States and the Allies didn't bomb the camps? Did we know about the camps? Did we know about what the Germans were doing? Could we have stopped it? In the end, what the war leaders understood was the fastest way to stop the atrocities was to destroy Nazi Germany. Let's go into it a little bit deeper. We know about Alligator Alcatraz because they're selling t-shirts on Etsy. And Alligator Alcatraz is a concentration camp. Can you imagine if this was a facility that dogs were put into? Or as one commentator put it out, a great ape? People would go nuts. But these cages will be filled with human beings. And in some of these ICE facilities, those human beings are drinking out of a toilet. That's a crime. Now, when we go back and we listen to the story of the American citizen, a tiny woman, small in stature, going to work, she stands accused of assaulting one of these men? Please. And so now, are we to live in a country where an accusation as absurd as that by the state is simply enough to incarcerate, to haul someone away to who knows where? Here's the deal. The military is writing ops orders for an invasion of a Los Angeles park in the middle of the day. And it says at the core, the reason is to demonstrate that they can do it, that they can bring the jackboot down on any skull they want. They could put 100 tanks onto the street. They could drop the 82nd Airborne down and kill everybody. Freedom of maneuver is what it's called. And you just witnessed the freedom of maneuver of a fascist government ordering its state police, masked in secret, to harass the citizens of the second largest city in the United States, to racially profile them, to attack their human dignity, and to strip away their rights, and all of it on the orders of Stephen Miller, sitting in the White House, a 39-year-old who is evil and extreme and powerful and deeply dangerous. He's not an Eichmann, he's a Heydrich. He's a man who walked into federal agencies, never having been elected, and demanded of confirmed Senate secretaries that they arrest 3,000 people a day or else. And here's what that looks like. And it's coming to your town square. And we must unite to stop it, because it is the preeminent evil of our era. This is The Warning.
I'm Steve Schmidt. This is The Warning. I invite you to join this community where I promise to be honest, blunt, and direct about what is happening in this country. America is in crisis. Follow and subscribe to this channel and on Substack. Thank you.